So for the board, I meet with the faculty senate every board day. So we meet for 2 hours. I think all of the faculty senates pretty much have the same, faculty senate presidents have the same personality as Jano. They're pretty straightforward. I'm pretty clear about where they stand over issues. So we actually, but we're working together on a number of these projects, and we have to do that. They have to be able to talk with me and us and and they meet with the vice chancellors and the presidents. And so I appreciate your getting involved in this. And so you all know that the president of Valencia used to work for us and stole about half of our ideas. If he were here, I'd tell him the same thing. But I think Valencia's got a good model in a couple of different ways. But we'll do it the Lone Star way. And just for the board, so I've been with her for about half the day, and she's been the same way all day long. So I'm pretty clear about what she believes in. So thank you.
Tell me again, how often do you meet with the those individuals?
Well, we meet every board day,
Okay.
and then we have meetings periodically. Like we have another meeting that we tentatively were looking for some dates to go through faculty hiring rates and some things that Mario's been working on. And we will sit and share with them. Jennifer, I haven't told you this, but we're going to go through the 5-year model with them so they understand it. And we've gone through that before, but we'll spend more time so that they understand some of the issues behind the scenes. So it helps us if they have the knowledge and they can ask questions, because we deal with it all the time. So it's pretty obvious to us, but I've got it. So we don't mind sharing the information. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Head. I never can tell whether this thing is on. I guess it is. Board members, you now have the opportunity to talk about outstanding things that you have done over the last month, such as campus visits, and et cetera. So anyone would like to report out on outstanding or important events that you've participated in?
You're not going to call yourself out. I am, Dr. Dave. When was it? Last month? Oh, what was the date?
September 13th.
So September 13th of last month, Dr. Dave went down and represented the U.S. and his age group at the World Triathlon Championships in Australia. Finished top 16 in the world in his age group, top 8 America to cross the finish line. So we'd all like to congratulate him for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You want to make a speech?
Make a speech?
Yeah, short speech. Tell us a little bit about it.
The Australian people are the politest, kindest. Even if they're not trying to sell you something, they go out of their way to help you or take care of you or whatever. I mean, and I figured it out. You know, Texas was really, one of its origins was a bunch of people on the East Coast escaping to get away from stuff they did that they didn't want to be put in those little rooms with bad room service. They were criminals.
Yeah.
Debtors. Well, guess where Australians originally came from? The UK was using the island as a jail until they discovered gold, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna change that program." But I have no idea. I was telling somebody, I think Kyle, it reminded me of Texas, because in Texas, you know, if you think you're big enough to do it, people are going to say, "Go for it." Well, the Aussies are that same way. And I had a great time, had a great day. Got to spend time 2 weeks with my wife and our adopted daughter, and that was special. And made a lot of memories, and I got to race.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I had a good day. I had a great day.
You're a role model. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, mention the foundation reception.
Yes.
Because not only were there $500,000 raised, but to be able to talk to some of these folks who actually probably don't, were some of the people who contributed, but also people who were interested in contribution. Um, what I did find out, or at least reaffirmed the fact that individuals who have an interest in or enthusiastic about supporting education, they don't just want to give out hand out a check. They really, the individuals I spoke to, they have a deep desire to support education and to be engaged. And they even motivate me. Some of these folks are very busy. They're successful business people sometimes, or and they know that their time is limited. But we did talk about mentorships, about different ways they can participate with the college. I was excited to hear some other people that haven't been involved with Lone Star were expressed an interest in being part of who we are and a little bit more engaged. I did. The ones I spoke to that we want to make sure we encourage them, we involve them, and we share some of the success of our students, which we do, of course. But to me, as a board member, it really inspired me. I just wanted to share that because it's not only that they want to it's not only that check they give, but it's a commitment and a desire to be part of something bigger than themselves. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. And Nicole, would you stand up, please?
Yeah, Nicole.
Based on what I saw, Nicole and her staff did a great job of putting that program together. And we had a lot of, Mario's staff did also, thank you. But it was a great job. And so keep up the good work and appreciate what everyone's doing. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
I just want to take some time and congratulate, well, not congratulate, but thank Dr. Wright and Dr. Joining me at the East Aldine, center, the new school, the new college that's going to be there next year. I just want to thank your work. The community really likes you guys. They're very excited to have the new center there. I visited the Lone Star College North Harris table, and just to let you know, just want to, when I visited the table, I visited the students and staff, and they thought I was a student myself.
I understand that.
So I went there, and the first thing they told me was like, before you graduate, you need to look at Lone Star College. So I went on. I was like, oh, really? Oh, yes, okay.
That happens to me all the time.
So I just thank you so much for your work in the community, and we're really excited to have you guys on board. Thank you.
One thing, you drug out next year. Does that mean anything?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I assume there's no one else with a report. Helen, do we have any citizens wishing to speak to the board tonight? 5, okay. Who is that now? Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Gemini Wahaj, and I am representing the American Federation of Teachers at Lone Star College. Lone Star College is a place where people have worked for many years and want to work for many more. However, as the board is aware, there are times when employees have faced abusive work situations or disciplinary action where secrecy and lack of due process have produced unfair outcomes. An AFT survey showed that LSC faculty and staff feel that the college's grievance policy is not fair and that employee rights are not protected. Over the summer, a team of 20 AFT Lone Star members met to look at these concerns to arrive at a fair grievance policy that would protect the interests of employees. We looked at our current policy and studied the grievance policies of other institutions, including U of H, UT Austin, Bernard College, Spring ISD, Houston ISD, to name a few. I present to you today our proposal for a fair grievance policy that will take away the secrecy we have had in the past in favor of equity, due process, and transparency. By adopting this policy of a standard with other institutions of higher education, the college will ensure that all employees feel confident of a clearly defined and transparent process, both when the college brings a disciplinary action against an employee and also when an employee has a grievance to air. These policy recommendations will ensure that employees have confidence in due process and feel secure in their employment. The administration feels confident in its decisions, vetted by a large number of people at many levels. There is transparency and accountability so that bad decisions are stopped and bad actors think twice before acting in bad faith, and that grievances rarely reach the board as issues get resolved through a transparent and fair process. In brief, we propose an ombudsman reporting directly to the board who will actively review policy and recommend changes and act as a resource for employees when there is a conflict. A college-level review committee made up of employees, of elected staff, and faculty that will hear grievances when there is a proposed disciplinary action against an employee and make its recommendations to the president of the college. Also, a system-level review committee of elected employees from each of the colleges and the system office to review a grievance that does not get resolved at the college level and make its recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Both committees can ask for a hearing, call witnesses, and ask for documents and evidence. We also propose that in cases of proposed disciplinary action against an employee, the employee should be informed at each level of the decision-making process in writing, and the employee should be given an opportunity to respond. The employee can then seek to informally resolve the conflict with guidance from a neutral ombudsman if desired. If this fails, the employee can appeal to the college-level employee review committee for a hearing. The college president will seek the recommendation of the college-level Employee Affairs Review Committee before he makes or she makes a final decision. If the employee is not satisfied with the college-level decision, then she or he can appeal that decision to the chancellor and be granted a hearing with the chancellor before the chancellor makes his decision. Following the chancellor's decision, if the employee is still not satisfied, then that employee can appeal to the system-level Employee Affairs Review Committee, which will make its recommendations. Only those decisions that do not get resolved at this stage, with utmost effort at transparency on the part of the college, with vetting and checks and balances, will go to the board for a final appeal. The AFG's recommendations on grievance mirror the policies that already exist at other institutions of learning in Texas and at other institutions of higher education across the nation. We believe that these processes will help Lone Star employees and administration feel confident about a shared due process with transparency and equity, where we all are accountable for our actions and we all have a right to due process.
Thank you. I have a question. Ma'am, could you make sure that Helen has a copy of that?
Sure, we uploaded the whole policy when we asked for a speech.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
what's your name again? Martina? What
I'm
is it?
Gemini Wahaj.
Okay, Gemini Wahaj. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Earl Brewer, and I'm a member of the American Federation of Teachers Union at Lone Star College. While we would have preferred an adjunct to stand before you tonight, due to fear of how presenting before the board might affect his or her career, and due to scheduling issues, we could not find anyone available for this evening, so I'm standing in their place. I would like to talk to you about the practices that affect the lives and well-being of every adjunct at Lone Star College. The practices that are of concern tonight are the ones affecting how adjuncts are paid. One example of these practices is that adjuncts are not promptly paid at the beginning of every semester.
Unlike full-time faculty, some adjuncts have not been fully paid for their services rendered this semester. Why must adjuncts wait almost a month before the start of every semester to receive their first paycheck? Waiting so long for that first paycheck puts many adjuncts behind on paying their bills. Another example of unfair treatment of adjunct faculty is that only full-time faculty are paid for their office hours and preparation time. Is it fair that adjuncts teach 60% of the classes at this college but receive the least amount of money for their dedication and hard work to our students in the community? This is unequal pay for equal work. This current situation is the primary root of resentment and low morale among adjuncts at our college. In fact, we have learned that some adjunct faculty are eligible for SNAP and must rely on it for food. To be clear, we have professionals who have multiple university degrees doing their best to teach our students. But these professionals must rely on state benefits because of the college's low remuneration. In the September-October 2018 issue of The Advocate, John Bergdorf points out in his article, Money Matters, Analyzing the Salary Increase, Buck Ease is more financially attractive to an academic professional than Lone Star College. In addition to these two examples of unfair practices, we have a third one that needs to be addressed. Adjunct faculty are never paid according to their academic credentials. Currently, an adjunct instructor with a master's degree is paid the same hourly rate as an instructor with a doctoral degree. Lone Star College cannot afford to continue to treat adjunct faculty differently from full-time faculty. To retain academically qualified adjuncts, there must be a change. We believe that every adjunct deserves fair treatment and equal pay for equal work. In the attached addendum, we include adjunct pay scale tables from Glenn, Austin, Alamo community colleges. We would like LSC to consider following this model as we did in the 1990s. What is the solution to unfair financial treatment to adjuncts? We would like to bring some of them to your attention. This past summer, several of our professional colleagues and fellow AFT union members spent many weeks researching the treatment of adjunct faculty at other community colleges in Texas. We discovered that Alamo, Austin, and Glenn have recognized that adjunct faculty deserve equal pay for equal work. These community colleges have adopted practices that pay adjuncts in ways that recognize their academic credentials by awarding compensation according to a tiered pay scale. We have included it as an addendum for your review. Therefore, we would like to propose the following recommendations to address the issues of how adjuncts should receive equal pay for equal work. Adjunct faculty must be fully paid for their services promptly at the beginning of each semester. Adjunct faculty must be paid for a minimum of 1 hour per week for each assigned class to hold office hours, correct assignments, and prepare for class lectures, just like full-time faculty. Adjunct faculty must be paid according to a tiered pay scale that recognizes academic credentials. We believe that Lone Star College should adopt practices that reflect our proposed recommendations. We are here tonight to ask you to support a tiered pay scale that would recognize the credentials of adjuncts at Lone Star College. We also recommend that the new policy include paid hour preparation time per week for every course the adjunct instructor teaches. This would recognize academically qualified adjunct faculty who have devoted their service to Lone Star College. Only then will adjunct faculty be treated fairly. Lone Star College should also consider tutoring opportunities for adjunct faculty. Lone Star College fails to provide opportunities when adjuncts are not allowed to hold part-time staff positions, such as tutoring, to supplement their income. Houston Community College allows adjunct faculty to work 8 hours of tutoring if carrying 2 classes and 5 hours if carrying 3 classes. Lone Star College needs to do the same. The U.S. Department of Labor explains how this can be done. This is stated in the addendum for your review. Therefore, adjunct faculty would greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Did you upload a copy of yours also? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing from me this evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of the AFT's Committee on Campus Safety. Each fall, faculty and staff recommit ourselves to serving students. We work to ensure their academic growth and help them to cultivate the physical and emotional health needed to be successful students. Sadly, too many students struggle to form healthy relationships with peers and instructors. And this generation of students is reporting record-breaking levels of stress anxiety, and isolation. In response to these trends, we have 3 recommendations we believe will improve student well-being. First, we ask for an increased availability of counseling on all campuses. We believe it is incumbent on institutions of higher education to acknowledge this generation's struggles. LSCS has traditionally provided wraparound support services for students. Indeed, our new campus, LSC North, has embedded this commitment into its very foundation. AFT wants to ensure that all students on all campuses have access to the support they need. We recommend changing policy language to codify the system's commitment to student welfare. Copies of our recommendation which we have drawn from Foothills Dianza's Community College will be provided, but those include: increase the number of crisis counselors on each campus. Ensure that these counselors, who would be full-time faculty members, have opportunities to meet not only with students, but also with other faculty and staff to build relationships that allow for quick and effective response to student needs. These counselors should also be available to work with students to improve interpersonal skills or help students balance work, family, and school obligations. Academic advisors, who also play an important role in student success, should focus on helping students with course scheduling and career planning. Second, consistently identify and respond to disruptive student behavior. Fortunately, the inclusion of more qualified counselors on campuses will likely reduce the number of disruptive students, since a student who is struggling can, with the help of a counselor, often return to class quickly and productively. In such cases, faculty are more willing to readmit students because they know a trusted colleague is working with that student to resolve behavioral problems. Nevertheless, some students will persist in poor behavior. In these cases, we believe everyone would be best served if clear, descriptive language about what constitutes disruptive behavior and the consequences for that behavior was included in the LSCS policy. Since many adjunct professors work on different campuses, clarifying the policy language will help these employees and ensure transparency and consistency across the system. Third, campus policing. AFT members are grateful for the work of our campus police and how they have handled the implementation of the campus carry law. Still, the inclusion of guns on campus, coupled with frequent school shootings, has renewed awareness of how vital police are to campus safety. Members on some campuses report seeing an increase in police presence, but we would like to see more police on every campus and in each center. Faculty, in particular, are heartened to see friendly conversation between police and students in our hallways and common areas, for these are the kinds of relationships with police that make our campuses safe. However, for many faculty and staff, opportunities to create those relationships with police are rare. While we know the police are not waiting around for us to call them in emergencies because they are actively working to prevent them, most employees and staff have little understanding of what that work entails. We ask the board to facilitate a system-wide conversation among all stakeholders to discuss how best to integrate police into the everyday workings of the campus and to help us forge closer relationships between police, faculty, staff, and students. Thank you.
Good evening. I am John Bergduff, representing the American Federation of Teachers. Looking out at the room this evening, you'll see that as you know, cultural transformation has been a major theme of conversation at Lone Star College for a while now. We in the AFT have been regularly hearing from employees that although everyone appreciates the attention focused on cultural change through LSC 2020, there are significant areas where work needs to be done to turn promises into reality. Therefore, we decided to conduct a survey this past spring inviting employees, faculty and staff, full-time and part-time, to share any concerns they have about the direction the college is heading. We saw a number of regularly occurring themes in the employee comments. 4 prominent themes involved campus safety, collaborative governance, adjunct compensation and rights, and grievances and appeals of disciplinary action. Drawing attention to areas of concern is always important. Offering concrete recommendations on how to address those concerns is how we as union members can actually help the college move forward. A group of 20 AFT members agreed to work with each other on a regular basis over the summer to do exactly that. We took time to research current Lone Star policy and the policies and practices of schools, colleges, and universities around the country, and we found concrete proposals that we believe will impact these key issues. Tonight, you are hearing from 4 members of our union. 3 you've heard from so far, and 1 more to go. Earl Brewer, Jemini Wahaj, Leah Carell, and Chris Partita. Each will be summarizing the proposals we are recommending for one of these 4 areas. We submitted the full proposals electronically through the Citizen Participation Enrollment website for you to see. We've also brought hard copies, and we have submitted copies to the Office of the General Counsel for their consideration as well. Some of the areas we are discussing tonight coincide with topics the Chancellor addressed in the newsletter he sent out Monday. So we know that these concerns are felt at all levels. We believe that we can all work together, faculty, staff, administrators, and board members, to make substantive cultural change a reality. We hope and believe that the proposals you are hearing tonight can start valuable conversations that will get us where we need to be. To show how important campus safety, collaborative governance, adjunct rights, and grievances and appeals are to faculty and staff, a number of members of our local are here in the room tonight to show our solidarity and support. You will notice us by the shirts we are wearing that state that we care, we show up, and we advocate together. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Partita, and I am a professor at Lone Star College, North Harris, and a member of the American Federation of Teachers. In Section 1C, the board's policy manual defines participatory governance as the process whereby faculty and staff have the opportunity and the responsibility to provide input, ask questions, and pose possible outcomes during the information gathering phase of decision making. I wish to briefly talk about this definition of participatory governance. It has served as a standard for various decisions made at the leadership level of the college, but it is still not perfect. Without a doubt, Modern Think LLC observed evidence of this standard when it conducted surveys last spring for the Chronicle of Higher Education's Great Colleges to Work For 2018 list. The Modern Think survey gives a different name for employee participation in decision-making. They call it collaborative governance. We have been participating at high levels. In fact, we have established a core set of values that encourages us to do so. But there is a gap between participation and collaboration. Employees feel this gap. We feel it every time we are asked for suggestions and are then locked out of the rest of the decision-making process. True collaborative governance would allow employees to offer feedback and advice during every stage of the decision-making process, not just the information gathering stage. If the college were to establish a system of collaborative governance instead of participatory governance, It would solidify an environment of trust among faculty, staff, administrators, and students. This summer, a group of us employees examines the practices of our peer institutions at Alamo Community College, Austin Community College, and Northern Virginia Community College. Copies of policies showing how these institutions have adopted collaborative governance are included in the documents I've submitted for the board to view. Inspired by these examples, we drafted a structure we are confident will establish true collaborative governance at Lone Star College. To that end, today we propose a revision to board policy to create two new employee entities, the Collaborative Governance Committee and the College Advisory Council. The primary charge of the Collaborative Governance Committee will be to facilitate and make recommendations for the implementation of system-wide collaborative governance directly to the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees. Before taking on its primary charge, however, this committee will first assemble the College Advisory Council. The College Advisory Council will establish several subcommittees tasked with addressing collaborative governance in all areas of Lone Star College, including academic affairs, student services, administrative services, safety, and employee relations. A simple organization chart of these entities is also included in the materials submitted to the board. We believe that the creation of the Collaborative Governance Committee and the College Advisory Council will live up to the Lone Star College 2020 cultural beliefs because they will be made up of representatives from every stakeholder group within the Lone Star College system, including students, staff, faculty, and administrators. We also believe that by formalizing structures of collaborative governance into our board policy, as other systems in Texas and across the U.S. have done, we will continue to be seen as an educational institution that truly acts on its values. We look forward to more collaboration among our fellow faculty and staff, administrators, and you, the members of the Board of Trustees, to move us into a future where we truly can be better together. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, that's it? Okay, thanks. Board members, we are now at the point of considering the consent agenda. So far, we have 3 items that will be considered separately. Items 2, 5, and 6. Are there any other items that you wish to be considered separately?
10.
Okay, item 10. Okay, any others? 10. Okay.
I wrote these notes about 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's okay. You are functional at 10. You're correct. Okay.
Even at 2 in the morning.
Even
Huh?
at 2 in the morning.
Okay.
All right. So that, any other items, board members? Okay, 2, 5, 6, and 10. At this point, I would like to have a motion to consider as a group items 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 11 through 22.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we accept those items as written. All those in favor, vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, item 2. We'll consider item 2 first. And I think, Kyle, you pulled that item, didn't you? Oh, yeah. I need a motion to and a second for item 2?
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's moved and properly second that we consider item 2. Cal, would you state your question or
yeah.
concern?
This was on a second reading at the last meeting, and some questions were raised about it. So we asked the board attorney, Commissioner Vogel, to address some of the questions that we had. The first being, when you review this policy, do you see any legal conflict between any of the rules and the way it's written? And then, because there is sort of a combination of rules written into the policy, what other avenues or outlets might people have if they're dissatisfied with something?
Okay. So I think the first issue was raised had to do with the fact that the general counsel also held some administrative positions. And if the question is there a legal conflict, the answer is no. And in fact, I recall back in the 2000s when I worked with the college, and Sandy McMullen, who was the former general counsel many, many years ago, actually had the title of Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and General Counsel. And if you look at other community colleges, there are many general counsel who also hold an administrative position, such as executive vice chancellor and general counsel, executive vice president. And I think the thought being that general counsels often have expertise in compliance, HR experience, and so those people hold those duties as an administrator, just like some of the other assistant chancellors or vice presidents in other colleges are. So I don't see any conflict in that. I think there are different duties. With regard to the second question, which I think the question had to do with how do you deal with it if there is a conflict? Was that sort of?
Sure. So if there's a conflict dealing with one office that may have some overlap, or a person works for one office and I feel that I have to go to another office that also resides under that person, what other avenues might I have?
Right. So, I mean, it's interesting in Lone Star, not all colleges that I represent have as much staff and as many lawyers, for example, in the Office of General Counsel. But in Lone Star College, you have not only the General Counsel's office made up of several lawyers. So if there is a conflict or the appearance of conflict, or just, for example, Mario might be involved in a situation wearing one of his administrative hats, then another lawyer in his office can handle it. And then there's me. So sometimes I am consulted with on an issue as the counsel for the board and an outside of the institution to give advice when there is an appearance of involvement by a particular lawyer who is in-house. So I think those, and plus you have other outside counsel who can be called as well.
I have a third question, which is your responsibility, Mario's responsibility, right? You're the board attorney. Mario oversees Office of General Counsel, but first and foremost, who is each of your responsibility to, or what?
Yeah, so we both represent the institution. And
The
so
institution.
yes, and the institution, really, the governing body is the board. Mario and his department certainly have involvement on a day-to-day basis, giving advice to individuals in the organization, but he doesn't represent individuals, just like I would not represent individuals. I don't represent individual board members. I give advice, but I represent the entity. And so really in that regard, Mario and I are the same in that we represent the entity. I think when he's wearing his administrative hat, he is an administrator in the organization under Dr. Head. And so at the end of the day, Dr. Head is the one who is the final decision maker on administrative issues.
Sure. And did you have any concerns that we need to air on this?
I really didn't. I mean, I think that it's a question of organizational structure. And because of the question, I actually did a little research myself. I have lots of clients whose general counsel is, I represent K through 12 schools as well as colleges, and I know that a lot of general counsel also are assistant superintendents, and so it didn't strike me as unusual. Corporations are like that. Nonprofit organizations often have a general counsel who also has some administrative duties, and sometimes it's just based on the expertise that that person has.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say, there's quite a bit of communication between Mario Castillo, who is the college's attorney. Yes, he reports to me, but it is not uncommon. If board members have questions, we'll either direct them usually to Mary Snyder Vogel, or we spend a lot of time talking to each other, the attorneys. It's not unusual for the attorneys to be talking to each other to make sure that everybody's in agreement with whatever the policy is or whatever the action is. And if we don't know, then we turn it over to outside attorneys and get another opinion. So I understand the issue, and all I can say is that we always take a look at the organization, or I do anyway, and see what would be better suited. Right now, we happen to think that's the best way. If you talk to me in a year, that could change because of the size that we have, and I'm very clear that our vice chancellors have a great deal of responsibility and a big scope there. So I'm not, we may change that over the long term, but right now it works.
Thank you, Dr. Head. Any other questions, Cal, on that? No, sir. If there are no other questions, all of those in favor of item 2, vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, item 5 is our item that's dealing with the interest and sinking fund. And Jennifer, let me do this first. I'm gonna make the motion to get a second, and then you can come in and discuss whatever it is you want to discuss. And I will read the motion. I move that the interest and sinking property tax rate remain the same as last year's rate by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.0278 per $100. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. I have a short presentation here that really covers both action items number 5 and number 6. The current item number 5 is the interest and sinking fund, and then the following one, number 6, is the maintenance and operations tax rate.
He's right behind you.
Sorry, there were 2 remotes. That's like my TV at home, and I don't know which one to use. So the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2019 is 8 cents for the maintenance and operations tax rate and 2.78 cents for the interest and sinking fund, which is for debt service, for a total proposed tax rate of 10.78 cents. This is the same tax rate as fiscal year 2018, so the proposal is to keep the same tax rate. Just some highlights on the process. We received the certified values from the Montgomery County Appraisal District and the Harris County Appraisal District in late August. A lot of this process is governed by state law. The effective tax rate notice, that's what ETR is, was published on Wednesday, September 5th. Public hearing notices were published on Tuesday, September 11th. And the interest and sinking fund rate is calculated, it's a backed into rate based on what is the required debt service amount, and then we back into the required rate to generate that amount of taxes to pay that year's debt service. This just shows you a history of appraised values. We definitely, back in fiscal years 2015 and 2016, had very strong growth in appraised values. Now, fast forward to fiscal year 2019, the preliminary growth rate is 3.66%. So this is a large drop from prior years, but I will say those prior years was just fantastic growth. Where we're at now is what is, in my opinion, much more stable long-term growth rate. And the bars is the actual values. Where you can see red is Harris County, which comprises about 75% of our appraisal district, and the blue is Montgomery County, which is about 25%. This is a comparison of Our tax rate compared to the state average tax rate over the past 15 years, you can see we have consistently been quite low and remain so at 10.78 cents. Part of this is also a function of where we live, is a very strong tax base because the revenues that we bring in is the appraised value times that tax rate. So we do have very strong appraised values. This gives a history of the actual tax revenues that comes off of the appraised values and the tax rate. So this is where you can see in prior years the tax rate was dropped to ultimately the current 10.78 cents in 2017, 2018, and now that same rate is what we're proposing for 2019. Now, for 17, 18, and 19, even though we've kept the tax rate the same because appraised values do grow as is typical, tax revenues do grow. So you can see that growth in the revenues shown by the blue bar, which is maintenance and operations tax revenues. These charts just shows the composition of all of our revenues. So property taxes does comprise, currently for fiscal year 2019, 42% of our total revenues. And just again to kind of compare ourselves among the 50 community college, that 41% of tax revenues that was in fiscal year 2017 is the 15th highest in terms of what proportion the tax revenues comprises total revenues. So just to run through the process, which you can see we are now at the final component of back in September 6th is when, at that board meeting is when this board proposed the tax rate. 2 public hearings were then held on September 18th and on September 26th. And today is when the board votes on those tax rates, which as you see are 2 separate agenda items. The first being for the interest and sinking fund, which is the debt service tax rate, and the second one being the maintenance and operations tax rate. And that concludes.
Are there any other questions on item 5?
Sure. Just give us about 30 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Since there are no other questions on item 5, all those in favor, vote by the usual sign.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 6. Okay, Ken.
Can we take
I'm sorry,
5 and
I was
6
supposed to have
together?
a roll call vote. Yeah.
Can we take 5 and 6 together?
No.
Well, do them separate.
We already have a motion and a
Already have a motion on the floor. So all those in favor by item 5, we'll do a roll call. We'll start off with Ken.
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes. Okay, item 6, which is maintenance and operation. I move that the maintenance and operations property tax rate remain the same as last year's rate by the adoption of a tax rate of $0.0800, which is effectively a 65% increase in the 0.65% increase in the total tax rate. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we consider item number 6. Are there any questions or comments? Since there are no questions or comments, we will start the roll call vote with Art Murillo.
Aye.
Len?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay. Item 10. I'd like to have a motion to consider and adopt possibly item 10.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we consider item 10. Are there any questions or comments? Dave, it's your...
Yes.
your nickel.
It seems like this project has been a long time coming. It's a Magnolia Center. And having lived in that area a long time, know the people in the area, this is going to be huge for them. And Rebecca, you're going to work, but it's going to be so worth it. And the only reason I separated it out, just to let everybody know, I'm so excited, I'm vibrating, I'm wearing my clothes out from the inside out, because it's going to be terrific for the community. Thank you for taking that on.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any other comments? All those in favor, vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that concludes that. And you're back on with the financial report.
Yes, I'd like to present the financial statements for the month ending August 31st, 2018, and the quarterly investment report also ending August 31st, 2018. So these are the final financial statements for fiscal year 2018. When I'm here next month is when I will begin the monthly reporting for the now current fiscal year 2019. So just running through what's in front of you. First, if you go to page 1, our actual revenues as a percent of budget, we were at 96% of revenues as a percent of budget, so we did bring in less revenues than we had budgeted. We did discuss this over the course of the year as enrollments came in lower than what we had projected for the budget. And so that is one of the primary reasons for that revenue number coming in lower than what we had budgeted. But if you go to page 2, you will see there that our expenditures as a percent of budget came in around 91%. So not all of it, but last spring we did also discuss then when enrollment numbers were coming in below projections, we did do budget cuts for all areas of the colleges and the Vice Chancellor offices in response to that coming in. We're seeing budget changes as we go through the fiscal year. So go to page 3, which is our statement of revenues and expenditures. That's where you can see that total revenues Fund 35, the Harvey Fund. I just want to keep recording there that what we have actually spent so far is $19.2 million. Yes, we are estimating $40 million of damage, but we are still actually doing the reconstruction work at Kingwood. So what we have additional encumbrances in the outstanding contract. So we're actually at estimating about $30 project worksheets to FEMA for the almost 40 million worth of damages and have not yet received any actual funds. They have definitely been processing the paperwork, but it's a very lengthy process that we are hoping that we can get additional help from the state after tomorrow's meeting. Also mentioned page 7 is the summary of operating funds. This is our actual cash as of August 31st, the cash reserves, that 19% that I mentioned. That's where you see the 66.7 million in cash reserves. We do have an additional 35 million that is our operating cash. So we do have a total of 102 million of cash.
While you're there, so right now, we're tentatively looking at selling more bonds in maybe April or May of 19, somewhere in the middle of 19.
Somewhere in the middle of 19.
And how many, what, are we looking at the rest of the bonds, 185 million or so?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that,
and that timing will just be based on the spend down of our current, right? We still have funds left from what we issued in 2017.
So for the board, that will bode well for us when we go in. First, we'll go to Standard & Poor's for credit rating, which I'm optimistic will be AAA. Then when we go to wherever it is we go to sell bonds, that we can get the best rates that we can possibly get. And we are keeping an eye on bond prices, so we're in good financial shape right now.
And then as part of my work first, regarding the Kingwood Build Back project, we do there have a estimated substantial completion date of December 7th, and we are all collectively working very hard to keep that date and not let it move. Already this week, right, we had to work out some things with the city inspector, but that is where we are projecting to have substantial completion.
So classes will start in January?
Yeah. So I can answer that. We are going to start classes in January if Catherine and I have to go open up the place over there, right?
So the kind of
hopefully at that substantial completion point, that's when we can start getting the IT and the furniture moved in for students to arrive in January.
Just so we're clear about this, and so Catherine will not send me a note later, we are open at Kingwood already. We just don't have access to all those buildings. Is that
The buildings, yes.
fair?
We've opened
Okay.
the buildings.
Those 6 buildings we need to get into.
So weather won't have any impact on the work that's left to be done, huh?
I mean, weather can always have impact on construction projects, and that's just where I say we are all collectively pushing very hard to make sure nothing pushes that substantial completion date back. And we're going to just, everyone really is doing everything they possibly can to keep that there. Yeah. Please knock on wood.
Dr. Pearson is very single-minded about this. If we get off track at all, we know. So she's the gatekeeper over there, the timekeeper too, which is good.
And Dr. Pearson, you just go right ahead. Okay? Only 38. Great job, Doctor. Oh, sure, I'll be there.
And so the last thing I'd like to know under the construction report, not related to Kingwood, but just in trying to continue to mention as we do complete projects over at University Park, buildings 12 and 13, entry canopy. The project manager in facilities and construction was Barry Parks, and definitely worked very closely with University Park, and that was a $2.1 million project. So if you happen to be over in that vicinity, I would definitely say go take a look at it. Dr. Head and I just looked at it the other day, and it does give sort of a different entrance feel to that campus than was there previously.
Our November board meeting is here, so we're going to send a note out to the board seeing if you want to come, some of you want to come early and take a tour of University Park, and then what we're doing on the tenant side also. So it'd be worth your time. It's a beautiful facility.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Good job, thank you. Okay. Board members, are there any future agenda items that you would like to have shown? Any future agenda items?
I want to have time in the next board meeting to say goodbye.
Okay. well,
Probably
that-
hour and a half.
Well, we won't give it an hour and a half, but we'll give you time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
But Dr. Head, I have an agenda item, and I'm not putting a due date on it as of this particular time, but I would like to see what I call employment data, for the last year, last 2 semesters, and I would love to see the employment data broken down by, I call it job categories. Lone Star may call it something different. How many folks we've hired, and would like to see that further broken down by ethnic groups. And the third item I'd like to see on there is, if possible, the available job market data. As an example, if you're hiring accountants, what the percentage of the population that have accounting background exists by racial groups, and et cetera, so you can compare the number hired to those with the requisite skills. And I know that's, I'm hoping that work is, that stuff, or that data, I should say, is readily available and won't cause any extra work, because I don't want to cause any extra work on anybody's part. Not by a great amount, but I think it's data that would be helpful, to board members to have when they're visiting community members and et cetera, and those kind of questions do come up periodically. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. If there are no other items, it is now 8:30, the meeting's adjourned.